with two pieces that can be used to make, two pattern pieces that can be used to make the arm. The one we're going to show today is the straight one that you have on your pattern instructions, which is using a 2.5-inch piece of fabric that's approximately, I think I said 16 inches, 14 inches long, and we will sew that to make a tube. You only need one length of that. Today I think I'm going to use this yellow that I have. Let's see. We've got that going around her. I'm going to stop the video in a bit so that I can sew around the edges and sew the actual material for the top, if you decide you want to put that on. And the other thing we can do is I'll show you what else you can do with tubes, and we'll go from there. When we do the long one, this is the tube that I'm talking about. We'll do the tube. In the middle of it, we will tie a knot so it looks like she's like folding her hands together. And then we can take some other tubes and make little puff sleeves for her, and just play with her. We will have in the kits that I gave, I did give some trim that can be added to the body. You'll find in the bag, you have some trim that once you've sewed your skirt, you can add it to the top of it to give it more of a seam, give it a little bit more style. It can go on the waistline. It can go up on the bodice part. It's up to you how you decide you want to decorate her. That was one piece. And I usually use a couple of pieces of trim. And you can see where I put that on there. Or that could go on the bottom of your skirt. Today I'm just going to sew the double line so that you can get to see that. So right now I'm going to go to my ironing board. I'm going to pause the video again. I can hear you. If you have any questions, just let me know. Oh, okay. Maybe I should show you this part first. Okay. And if you don't want to have like a jacket, I made this little neck piece, which shows up on your pattern also. And I placed that on the double side. I made them both the same on this one. But then I put a little, I have another little piece that I cut out and I sewed it on here. But you put this on the double and on your fabric, cut it out. Well, sew it first before you cut it out, and then cut around the edges. Turn it inside out like we did with this skirt, and then we'll have some pieces. So I'm going to keep working. And anybody have any questions before I go to the sewing machine and start doing some more sewing?
Gwen, I have a quick question. It's about the nose though, so I can wait till you finish and maybe later ask you about the nose. I'm having trouble turning it inside out. Okay.
You want to show it to me and I'll see what I...
Well, I actually started over again because the one I had...
Okay, what I will say about the nose, do I have the pattern piece here? When you sew the nose, you got to go slow because, here's the nose piece. When you're sewing the nose piece, I start out on the edge, sewing down, and then I have my stitch as many. Okay, for those who have the stitch monitor, I would bring this down from the 2.5 that, or the 2-inch that you might be using to sew regularly, and bring it down as to like 1.6. Start from here, go down, slow it as possible, and if you can turn your dial even more, go around the edge like that, very slow, come back around, slow, and then go back up and come across. And then you have it. When you go to cut it, you kind of have to pinch it. So you can take a pin, and they've all disappeared off of pin cushion and all has all disappeared off of my table, but here's a pin. Take a pin and just kind of stick it in there and make sure you haven't gone through the other side. Lift that up, pinch it, and then just snip it. Just snip it on the fabric like that. And then this way, you'll have enough room to be able to stick your scissors inside that little hole and just cut a line on the back part here, probably about a 1/2 inch, and then you'll be able to turn it inside out. So, did that help? Okay. All right. Anybody else have any questions? I'm so glad we have everybody understanding everything we're doing so far. This is a basic doll, so. All right. So you can kind of watch me as I turn this down. Depends on the long side. And you know what? Let's check this on her waist again. Let's try this doll that has a bigger waist. Okay. I think that will be big enough. Let me pin this in the front. Kind of hold that up where I need it. Okay. I'm not sure if you're seeing this. All right, I'm going to press this. I'll be right back. Let me get my iron hot. So while I'm heating up the iron and pressing things, do you have any questions? And if you want to take a note as to one of the places that you can find supplies for doll making, needles, marking pins, hair, fabric that can be used for the skin. Let's take this off of here.
Gwen, could you give us some ideas about hair too for this doll?
I will.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm writing this. So there's different kinds of hair that can be used when making dolls. As one of our doll makers said, in most cases, the fineness of the hair on a doll is probably important because the features are so small that you want to be able to not overwhelm the doll so much, but I like lots of hair. Okay. Turn that in. Sorry about that. That sounded like one of those block calls that I have. All right, so that's where I sewed that. I mean, iron that. And you see how it looks smoother and it'll fit around the waist. Well, this is down a little bit. And I pull it out. So, okay, you can't see it right now. Let's pull it up a little bit. All right, so I just ironed it at this point, and that just makes a difference already. I snipped it a little bit more so that you can have a little bit of a waist. And I fold it back. You can see the underside, or you can just leave it where it goes straight around. And then we can trim it. I like to show at least a little bit of it, the underside, to give it just a little bit of flair, but iron that a little bit better also, so you don't have the creases there. So when it comes to hair, you have to sew the head onto the doll before you can actually add the hair. So, and like I said, with this doll, I'm kind of pushing the stuffing around a little bit, and then I'm going to put it, so I place it on the neck and turn it backwards. So you have a space where you can have a space underneath the neck where it shows, but I would put it where it's about halfway up the head. This way, when you turn it on this side, you can see that you have a colorful neck there. And with that, we will do like we sewed the, look at that. Like we sew the nose on, and not that. And I will start there. And remember, there's like a little hole in here. Because it's going to be covered, this is about where, yep, that's about where I want that to come through. So I went through the top of the hole where I gathered it here and pulled it, but I'm going to go through this way, go in, take a stitch to anchor it. You don't want it pulling through. And then I'm going to put it on what I decide is the front of the doll. When you're using colors like this, you decide which side you want to do as the head. And I'm turning it back over. And I'm going to go through the middle of the head, I'm sorry, the neck.
Should we maybe pin it to keep it in place while we're trying to anchor it?
You could do that. That, like I said, my pin cushion went to the other side of the room, rolled off the table and rolled to the other side. One there. Okay. I should go get that. Hold on a second. Oh, there's another pen. At least at the top and at the bottom. You just kind of stick that in there. One on each side, this way. One on this side, so that you can hold it in place. I'm going to take this pin out for a second because it's has migrated up. As you see, I have the starting knot about, I guess it's probably more like a little past the middle of the back of the head. And I'm going to hold it there. You can put your pins in. That is not a pin, that's my needle. Okay. And you're coming out that way. And on the inside,
Closer to you.
closer to me, the bottom part. Oh, okay. The bottom part is coming out of the back of the head, and then we go in the underside. Let's get that out of the way. The underside of the neck. I don't know if you can see that, but we catch it back here so that it's not seen, although we will have hair on it, so you won't. And then you do an alternate where you go from the head to the neck, and you take a little stitch, tiny little stitch, and back to the head, and back to the neck, and pull that down and back to the neck. And you go all the way around the head. Taking little pieces of, picking up little pieces of the material so that it'll be secure. And back to the neck. Now, the thread that I suggest that you use when you're sewing the gathering of the head is a heavy-duty thread. And when I say heavy-duty, it can be like a upholstery thread, quilting thread, something that's a little sturdier than the regular thread that you would normally just sew with. And once you get to the edge, you're going to take some of the neck, some of the head, and some of the neck. And we sew that. Let's get that thread out of the way. And you go down till you get to just about where the, oh, I picked it up. You go down to where you get to just about where the chin is. And then you sew underneath the chin, kind of hold it upside down. You sew down to here, and then you pick this up and you go in and come through and go through the neck and go through the, let's go through the neck and go through the bottom of the face. And you want to keep it as straight across as possible. So when you go to sew it, and that's so if you can see that, when you go to sew it, when you finish sewing it, you're just kind of going straight across. And I actually took out a heavier thread. And then when you get to the other side, you just go back up the other side the same way you did on this side, taking small stitches as you go up and attaching the neck onto the face. Okay, I'm going to get a heavier thread so I can sew this on here properly. And we have some options for hair. The yarn is the easiest, but I do have some faux hair. We'll do the yarn first, and then I'll come back to the yarn here first, and then I'll come back to the faux hair. It'll reappear on my desk here. Sorry about that. We'll take a piece of cardboard, which should also be in your kit, or okay. Also in your kit, and in this particular kit, for some reason, does not have it, you'll find a crochet needle. And the reason I put the crochet needle in here is to show you how to knit what they call eyelash yarn. And I have to probably go upstairs for that, but I'm not sure if she was going to be a redhead, light colored hair, or a combination of, like this one has multicolor kind of matching her outfit. And nowadays you see young people and older people walking around with multicolored hair. Okay, now let me go check. I'll be back, ladies. Now, the easiest way to use yarn on the hair, and as I said in the beginning, I like lots of color. So what you would do, I have a cardboard. This is a very thin one, but it doesn't really matter. And I take my yarn. I think she's going to have two-tone hair. I'm not really sure, but we'll start it so I can show you how to do it. I would take this, put it near the edge, and this is about 2 inches long, maybe 3. Let's say this is 3 inches long. And you take it and you leave one that's like hanging down, and simple, you just wrap it around. Kind of lay them straight next to each other. If you decide you want more than one color, if your yarn doesn't already come variegated, you can always add more. Okay, I'm going to do with a little bit of the red too. One. There we go. Bring that down like that. And wrap that around. Now I'm going to grab the two of them and wrap them at the same time. Let's see if we like that. So you can kind of hold that next to your doll and see whether or not you like that. But the important part of this is, I think she wants to be more of a blonde or light color hair. It's like, I don't think I like the red, even though it may be near Christmas time. So I'm going to take this off. Okay, we managed to get that on there. Let's just take this off for a minute. Cardboard bins, thank goodness. Okay, let's go back to our piece. As they say, there we go. We're just going to stay with the one color. Find my beginning. And kind of spread it out as you're going down the side of the cardboard. So that you have some space. And I would do this in layers. And we're going to take, you can pretty much fill this up. This is a little bit longer than it needs to be as far as the cardboard is concerned. And what we're going to do is what they call a blanket stitch. Hold on a second. Okay, I got a different pin cushion. You can use a curved needle, but a straight needle works fine. Okay. I don't know if you can see this. This is one of the John Donner needles. It has a good size head in it as far as the hole, and it is approximately the length of your finger. And it's pretty thin, but it's not too thin. And that's good in order to get through your fabric when you have to kind of sew and sculpt the face kind of thing. It makes a smaller hole in the fabric and gives you the ability to make your stitches closer. Okay, and today I'm not able to thread the needle, but I'm going to work on that. Take the glasses off first. Okay. Excuse me, ladies. Okay. We're going to, I don't want to work with too long a thread, but probably anywhere between 18 to 20 inches. Double is a good length to work with to help prevent it from getting twisted and tangled. Okay, so we take our cardboard again, and let's turn this back around. And what I do is I go underneath the yarn, come up, and before I get to the end of my thread, I'm going to go back into the loop and loop it that way, so you're catching the thread. On the first one, I'll do it a couple of times. You take 1 to 2, we'll take 2 to 3 pieces of thread, balled up there a little bit, but you go back in. Okay, it's a thinner needle, but so it's harder to pick up, but you go back into the loop. Make sure you get both sides of your loop. And go through the thread so that you can pull it and it anchors it. Then you take one from the last one you did and go over and pick up another hair, go through it, the loop, and pull that through. Well, that didn't go through right. All right, when it decides it wants to knot up like that, we're just going to take this, go through that again, lay it out straight. I'm sorry, I came out of the camera. I'm going to go in, pick up one. There is a way to hold this straight. Okay. Go in and pull it, and then you got that going. All right. And then we're going to sew that all the way across. I'll do this one more time. Well, I'll do it all the way across. We have time to do that. And we do that. I'll start from the last one. Pick up 2. Loop back in. I think I have too many. What we're going to do. Then we don't have so many strings hanging. Okay. Before you get the loop.
And you could push your camera up and you don't have to hold it down. Like, yeah. There we go. There you go.
Better? All right. And to make that loop, go in from the last one, pick up 1 or 2 from the next, go through the loop, and pull. Go back 1. I had this lady on Curious Mondo last week, and she said, you go over 2, come back 1. Go over 2. She was doing macrame, weaving. Go over 2. Go through the loop. Come back 1. Go over 2. And go back 1. Okay, that decided it wanted to make an extra loop there too. Okay, and I want to go over the back 1. It doesn't have to be exact, but when you go through, you want, that's what I didn't want to do. Let's see if we can correct that before I make the knot. Let's pull this out. Okay. You want to straighten out your loop here so you can go through the middle of it, and then it'll pull straight. Go back 1. We'll go through 2 this time. Straighten out your your loop, go through the loop, and pull it. Sometimes they get a little off and you want to pull that tighter. Okay. Okay. Let's pull those two over. And I should have straightened that out so that you don't get the loop, don't get the knot, I should say. Go back in, pick up those two, go through, go back in, pick up the last one, pull your loop, and then you tie a knot. Wrap it around your 3 times around your needle, put your finger there and pull it to make your knot. So now we've got what they call a wep for your the hair, and I'm going to cut. Now I'm going to save myself some time and leave that on. Then you just bend your cardboard and slide the yarn off. And then you have something that looks like this. It has the rings in it and it's attached. And we've made our own little hair wigs with using the yarn.